You're listening to Ask Dr. Jake. My name is Dr. Jake Tucker. I'm the owner and founder of Good Life Family Chiropractic here on the south side of Lincoln. And I'm coming to you today with another message of hope, health, and wholeness. And really, what I want to do today is really take a deep dive into arthritis. Now, as deep as 13 minutes will allow, obviously, because that's what we do on Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning, is we take deep dives in what 15-minute allows. But if you're dealing with arthritis, if you are sick and tired of dealing with joint pain, if dealing with the inflammation and the side effects of that inflammation, or even just the medication that they're putting you on, some of the most dangerous medications on the market are arthritis drugs. If you're sick of all that and you're ready to get to the cause of the problem, then write this number down. Pull out a pen and paper: 531-289-7100. Again, that's 531-289-7100. And what we'll do today is, for the first 5 of you that call into the office, we're going to be giving you a discount off of a consult, exam, any nerve scan, digital x-rays, and any services that you receive on that first day that you come into my office. So normally, if that's just the exam, consultation, and x-rays, that's about $130. The value on that is over $2,000 with the level of testing that we're doing. And if we end up doing an adjustment as well, that would normally be around $60. So for all that, you'd be getting that for just $95. So pick up the phone, call now. You can also text 531-289-7100. So let's break this down, because I had a patient actually give me a hug yesterday. And this is a lady that has rheumatoid arthritis. And when she first started, she said, "Dr. Jake, have you seen anyone as bad as me?" Now, this young lady is in her early 60s. And you got to remember that before I moved up here about 4 years ago and opened my practice here in Lincoln, I was practicing in South Florida. Now, Lincoln is known around the state of Nebraska as a retirement community, but Naples, Florida is the retirement community for the nation. Everyone who is retired goes down there. In fact, we called a lot of the people that came from up north snowbirds, and those were the people that stayed between Thanksgiving and Easter, because they were coming to retreat from the snow. And so many of those people had arthritis. And most of the time what I would get is people telling me, "Oh yeah, I've got this arthritis. My doctor says it's because I'm getting older." And I said, no, that's not it. And so you have to understand arthritis. We have to break this down. Arthritis literally only means joint inflammation. That's all it is. Any diagnosis you ever get, you have to understand, most of the time it's just the Latin term for the symptoms that you're experiencing or the signs that someone's finding in your body. Literally, arthritis is just joint inflammation. How does joint inflammation happen? Well, there's really only 2 pathways for joint inflammation. The first is, what you're exposed to. What you're exposed to, whether it's your food or a toxicity or a toxic environment, can create that joint inflammation. And this young lady that I was dealing with just yesterday, she was actually raised on a farm and then married a farmer. And so one of the main toxins that she was exposed to over the course of her life were the pesticides that they were constantly spraying on their foods. Now, some of those pesticides have been banned. Some of those pesticides have since been banned in other countries. And some of those pesticides, even though they're known carcinogens and known inflammatories, they're actually still legal and still allowed to be sprayed on a farm. And so I see this very often in farming communities. I will see people dealing with all sorts of arthritis, all sorts of different types of arthritis or arthritic or rheumatic type conditions because of the toxins that they're exposed to. Now, diet also plays a huge role in this as well, because the foods that you take in, they can either build health or they can interfere with the expression of health and lead to a misfunction, a malfunction, sickness, and disease. So this young lady, she's dealing with rheumatoid arthritis, and she's wondering where all this came from. And so we kind of go back through her history. We talk about her gut health and how that's been disrupted by everything she's been exposed to. But more importantly, what's going on that's also creating inflammation in her spine is this thing called Wolff's Law. Now, Wolff's Law is really just subluxation in action. If you've heard me talk for any amount of time here on this radio show, you should have heard me talk about subluxation, because subluxation is literally just any misalignment in any joint in your body, but specifically your spine, that interferes with the expression of intelligence from the brain out to the organ cells and tissues. And really just even 2 millimeters or 2 degrees is enough to create a 60% decrease in that expression if left there for 5 minutes or more. And so we identify some of those areas in her spine, and she has some pretty massive ones. She has a spondylolisthesis, she has a scoliosis. Those are massive interferences to the expression of life and intelligence and health, to the tune of between 14 and 20 years of life expectancy on average. It's like having type 2 diabetes for its effects on your life expectancy and life quality. And so I develop a plan for her. We're going to start by addressing her spine first, get that stabilized, allow the expression of life to go out every organ, cell, and tissue in her body so that they can start to heal. And then we're going to start to change those things that she's surrounding herself with, the diet stuff, the stuff that she's putting in her mouth, the fact that she's a smoker, the additional toxins that she's adding in. Those things add up and create either an environment of sickness and disease like they were doing for her, or an environment for health and healing. And so we start to work on that. And within a month, her chief complaint coming in was that her back flared up so much that she couldn't hold her grandkids anymore, that she couldn't watch her grandkids. And that was what she was living for. No more husband, no more family living at home, no more farm to do. She was living for her grandkids. That was the purpose that God had for her in this season of her life. And she wasn't able to do that. Within a month, she was back and she was able to watch those kids for a full day at a time without pain at the end of the day, just by addressing the cause. So I said that there were two things that affect, arthritis and what creates that. Number one is those inflammatories. Number two is something called Wolff's Law, that subluxation that's happening. So subluxation, anytime you have a joint misaligned in your body, less than a dislocation, but still misaligned, it creates an action in response, or a reaction to the response that's created in that joint. So Wolff's Law states that any joint that's out of alignment, even 2 millimeters or 2 degrees, even the slightest nanometer even, will start to degenerate at a rate of 7% per year. That's called degenerative arthritis. That affects every joint in your body equally. So if that's a knee joint, your knee, if it's misaligned, if those bones in that knee are misaligned, it will degenerate at a rate of 7% per year. Now, if you never realign that joint, eventually you'll go through 4 phases of arthritis. You go from misaligned to misaligned with bone spurs, to misaligned with bone spurs and decreased joint space, to misaligned, and those bone spurs in that joint space all fuse together and form a single bone. That's 4 phases of arthritis. That process usually takes somewhere between 24 and 50 years to get from phase 0, which is properly aligned, to misaligned, and then all the way into phase 4 arthritis. We don't want that to happen to anyone. We can intervene in that process for anyone. We deal with joint instability all the time. We take digital x-rays to know exactly where we need to adjust and where we don't adjust, but then where we strengthen joints, where we give you body weighting, vibration therapy, and just work the way back to healthy again. And arthritis isn't something that creates pain in everyone. Unfortunately, I had a gentleman come through the office just last week, and he was coming through to get checked because he had sat through his wife's process and realized that the importance of getting the spine checked was so vital that he didn't even know how healthy he was without that. He didn't know how healthy he was. He felt fine. He had no symptoms. I mean, he was out laying pea gravel, 50, 60-pound bags of pea gravel all by himself the weekend before without any pain or discomfort. But when I looked at his spine, I saw severe interference in the expression of function in life to his organ cells and tissues. And even though the only thing he was dealing with was high blood pressure, which he had under control with the medication, under control, quote unquote, meaning that his heart was malfunctioning underneath, but the symptoms of high blood pressure were not being allowed to express themselves because of the medication he was taking. What I saw on his x-ray, based off of the exam findings that I took, was phase 4 degeneration in his neck. He was wondering why he had a decrease in range of motion, even though his neck didn't hurt. And it was because every single one of the bones in his neck had gone through those 4 phases of degeneration. They were fused together. The only segments that weren't fused together were the base of the skull, C1 and C2, meaning that he had some motion in his neck and some ability of his spine to adjust around his brainstem, but his spinal cord was stuck in position by the arthritis that was below. And then in his low back, because of the degeneration that was down there, it actually lost stability. That it had worn away the disc so much that it had buckled into a scoliosis. and it was affecting his health. It was affecting his prostate. It was affecting the ability of his prostate to regulate itself, and it created prostatic hypertrophy, or really just an enlarged prostate. And so, I sat down with him and I went through everything, and he was so surprised at what was going on in his spine that he referred out for a second opinion with an orthopedist. And I don't envy that orthopedist at all. He's going to have to give the same bad news that I gave twice, that once those joints are fused, it's too late. You're stuck with the ramifications of that. And this is a gentleman who is taking care of his wife, whose wife is dealing with a chronic degenerative condition that keeps her from being able to drive herself around. And her spine's in better shape than his, and her life expectancy is greater than his, in spite of the increase in number of diagnoses that she has. She is actually healthier than he is. His body is expressing less life and health and vitality than hers is. Hers is expressing more symptoms, but remember, your symptom is a sign that something is going wrong. And yes, she has a scoliosis, and yes, she has arthritis in her neck, and she has arthritis in her back. And those are things that we're addressing as well. But where she's getting healthier, his ability to heal is limited by what's going on in his spine. And so I implore you today, don't conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. If you are in pain, if you have a decrease in function, if you have sciatica, if your back hurts, if your neck hurts, if you get headaches, that's a sign, not just from your body, but that God created within you to tell you that something's wrong and to urge you to take action. And if you are sitting there right now and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you're feeling confirmation from the Holy Spirit, and I love it when I get these phone calls from people who are just like, I was listening to you and I just got this urging from the Holy Spirit to pick up the phone and call your office, then call now and make an appointment. The office phone number is 531-289-7100. Again, 531-289-7100. We're standing by to take your phone call and set you up with a 50% discount off of any visits received on that first day, whether that's for just the consultation and exam, add x-rays in there, add some imaging in there. If we need to do an adjustment on that first visit, all of that's at a 50% discount. If you get everything, all those things that I just listed, it would be no more than $95. That's over a $2,000 value, although our normal fee is far less than that. We're always working to make our prices affordable, and the care that you're receiving here is the same level as if you were walking into a spinal surgeon's office. That's the care and detail that we take with each of your accounts, with each of your files, and with each of you, because we love you and we want you to be healthy and well so that you can express your purpose and God's plan for your life. And in doing so, bring more glory to Him. I'm Dr. Jake Tucker. I hope you join me again tomorrow for another episode of Ask Dr. Jake.